It is Friday before the US Thanksgiving. So, welcome to the IT Hour. I'm Becky Scott, head of community at JumpCloud. Welcome, Urvashi, our technical champion. And Chase is back again. We've been seeing a lot of you recently, Chase. Thanks for coming again. We're
Course.
happy to have you
For having me.
back. So, it's almost Thanksgiving here in the US. We were just talking to Urvashi about her um, wonderful plans, going to do some fun things. And Chase, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? Anything fun?
I'm gonna go down and actually see my mom in Arizona, so we're gonna hang out there for a bit, which is good. And it should be warmer. So that's the goal is hopping around, seeing that sun. So
Nice. And Urvashi, you're staying in warmer climates as well, right?
I was gonna say if you want warmer, just pop into Sri Lanka where I will be. It'll
Little
be
bit of a hop.
85 degrees
Yeah, that'll
in
be
November.
nice. It's been somewhat warm here in North Carolina. Like it'll get cold overnight, but then it's been getting up into the 70s during the day at times. Not Celsius, Fahrenheit, just so we don't confuse people. Because I know you're talking about 35 degrees Celsius in Sri Lanka, which will be, for the US folks, will be close to, what do we say, about
Like
90
30
ish?
degrees Celsius is like 85, 86
Yeah.
Fahrenheit.
So almost 90 degrees, which is nice and warm. So yeah, that'll be really nice.
Mhm.
Really nice to have warm.
Work
warm.
on my tan, I feel like I'm getting a little pale, so gotta go fix that.
There you go. Well, that sounds like a fun weekend. And as you probably know, we will not have the IT hour next week because it is a holiday. So we're taking off, closing the offices, and just taking a break to spend time relaxing and enjoying our families and I don't know, maybe noshing on some turkey. I don't know about you, but it's my favorite holiday simply because of the food. Like, I'm all about the turkey and dressing and mashed potatoes and gravy and green beans. And I don't eat cranberry with ridges on it, though that's not my.
Unfortunate. I'm team canned cranberry. So
Yeah, several years ago, someone gave me a cranberry salsa recipe. Maybe living in California, salsa is a big thing. So we had this cranberry salsa, and it's got, lime juice and jalapenos in it. And it's phenomenal. And it's even better the next day. It goes really well with turkey. I'm telling you, you ever try it, you'll forget cranberry in a can. What? It's
Now I have a craving that
amazing.
I didn't know that existed, so thank you, Becky. I'm gonna
It's
try and hunt it down.
really good. I mean, you s pour it on there, and you don't have to slice your cranberries. Okay, I'm getting requests to post the recipe. I will find it and do that because it's really good, and it's really good on leftovers, I'm telling you. It's amazing.
Jeffrey's
Um
aghast. Cranberry salsa!
It's so good, Jeff. You'll definitely, if you like cranberries and you like salsa at all, definitely worth a try. Fresh cranberries, um, yeah, it's good. So I guess we'll have to start a recipe sharing.
I was
Uh,
gonna say it's just time for the annual JumpCloud cookbook to come out, and we'll
yeah, and
get
there
it
we
going.
go. We've got
I
some,
mean,
got some
we did
cooks.
post an IT Hour playlist with recommendations of like songs to work to, so I mean, we
Let's
can add
start
this.
sharing our holiday recipes. I like Jonathan says any holiday can have those things, and you're right. I do it at Christmas too, turkey and dressing, and I will eat those leftovers until they are completely gone. But if I run out of gravy, they're just not they have to have the dressing and the mashed potatoes, they have to have gravy. I'm not as keen on the leftovers if they don't have gravy. It's all
You
about
know
the
what I
gravy.
always wanted to try before I left the US, but I didn't, was a turducken.
Mhm.
No?
It does
I've been
not
Have you had
sound
one?
I think
that doesn't sound
It
appetizing
was
to me because I hear that it's too hard to cook and it could get dry. Like the outside one would get dry and the inside one wouldn't get cooked. So Turkraken. Jeff says Turkraken. I don't know about. I guess if you like octopi, maybe. I mean, I like fried octopus and things like that. It's octopus, crab, and lobster.
I
Hmm.
mean, sushi has quite a few of those things all rolled in anyway, so is Kraken just sushi?
Yeah, but
Am I gonna get canceled for
maybe
this?
cook the crab and lobster. I think I would not do those. Like I wouldn't do those sushis. Like I would cook them, but they're already cooked when you do them in sushi anyway. So
Just wanted to type Kraken.
Jeff, there you go. And let's see. Keith said no turkey for Stuart, and then Stuart says Keith fowl FOWL play. So the puns have already started. So we're off to a good start this morning. All right. So happy Friday. So our usual schedule. We've got some community stuff, some community updates, and we are going to jump straight into a review of the webinar for Q4 Roadmap that we had a little bit earlier this week. Chase is going to tell us a little bit about that, and we will take questions if you have any around that stuff. It might be a little bit short today, which we're okay because, I want to get cracking on that vacation that I've got coming up next week. Had to work that in just for you, Jeff. All right. With that, we got a lot going on in the community. First off, just yesterday, speaking of Thanksgiving, I did a post on what you are thankful for. And I know not all of our viewers are in the US, but would love to have you contribute to that. So, Urvashi, if you would post that link in the chat. I have one of those soundboards, the Stream Deck, but I can't figure out how to get it to play through the Crowdcast thing. Like I have these really cool sound effects, but I can't get them to play. I will figure that out one of these days so I can do the breaking glass.
Do some testing on this. I'm putting this in on our to-do list.
There you go. We'll play with it and figure it out. But definitely please contribute to the what you're grateful for, what you're thankful for. Would love to see your lists. And we are starting. You can see that Urvashi has been very industrious in the IT Hour group. We're starting to do some transcripts of the technical demos in the IT Hour so that you can more easily find things that you're looking for when you want to go back and check for certain things in the demos. So you can search some of the text and find things a little more easily. So we're starting to put up some transcripts there. So go check those out. Like if you want to find a little piece of the Android EMM demo or the JumpCloud Go demo or Federation and Dynamic Groups, we're posting just this section of the demos so that you can go through and find the part that you wanted. Joe Workman helped out in the Slack Lounge on silencing a Connect JC Online function, and Urvashi posted that in scripts. And then Joe went on to also post in scripts a set default or enforced home pages in Chrome/Edge. And I know everybody loves to see demos by Joe, so go check that out and see what you think. Answer to the above, no, as I be working. Well, yeah, I know some people will be working on Thanksgiving, Stuart, but maybe you can find something that you're thankful for in spite of having to work. I hope. Aw, thankful to the JC staff and community. Well, thank you, Stuart. We're thankful for you too. All right, so with that, let's jump into what's going on for Q4, Chase?
So many things.
I know, right?
So many things. All right. So let me get this up. Okay. Can you see the screen? Here, I'm going to do a little bit of a split so that way I can get some things going. Okay. So a little bit of talking head before I go. So if you had a chance to join the webinar, great. Hopefully I will do a speed through version. And so I actually recommend folks going there. There's a lot more detail that we cover throughout that, kind of hour plus, in addition to questions, kind of other pieces. My hope here is that I just kind of provide a sneak peek around a lot of these other, but then also my interpretation of it. So this is kind of like the short director's cut where I modified a lot of the different visuals that you'll see kind of around through the webinar and kind of what we covered, but that's a little bit of a heads up and where we're heading. So with that, quick disclaimer, because it is still roadmap, right? And so if you ever have questions on what the team's up to, where things are going, I'd say just come back here whenever we're releasing features, other pieces. Usually it hits IT hour first, and then kind of you'll have that reverberation, that is the word of the day, into kind of all the different mediums that we're covering here. But I'd say in general, a lot of where we spent our time, certainly within Q4, and so this is coming late in the middle of the quarter, but I'd say the last 2 quarters, we spent a lot of time thinking about how do we take identity management plus device management and making sure that that intersection is as powerful as it can be, right? Because we're in a really interesting spot where we're managing the identities and the devices and then all that different access in between. So where are we able to add more value for both admins as well as users? And so through that, we spend a lot of time on kind of what we're calling like the new front door. We internally call this device as a gateway. It might be another moniker that you hear, but we're thinking about that front door experience for how users get into JumpCloud, how they get into the devices, how you can help support them. And so a lot of the features that I'll be talking about today kind of help think about that type of methodology coming down into it. So the first piece that we delivered was a new login screen. And so now you can start to think about JumpCloud having a little bit like an extra layer of control before the users even get in. And so what we've done is we've actually redesigned specifically for the Mac OS, so we're shown here, but then there's also a Windows version, but we're pulling in more information that makes it more helpful. So not only do you kind of did a little bit of a redesign, so it kind of looks a little Mac-ish, but we're also pulling forward kind of wireless information. We're also pulling forward some system information. So that way, even before you or a user are able to get in, you can actually have some help, make sure it can kind of get on the network or kind of triage a little bit more in terms of what we're doing. Now, the next fun piece is that, well, since we're managing that login screen, what's the next element that we can do that? Well, we can get new users into that device for the first time. So this is really helpful for hardware refresh cycles or kind of other pieces where or you have the Mission Impossible scenario where like, oh, okay, Tom, here's a new laptop before you jump on the plane, right? Just log in and you now have, access into your JumpCloud credentials and making sure that you're able to work on that device, right? You just picked it up and you're able to have that self-provisioning flow available to your users. So that's really helpful and just kind of a nice speed upgrade there for folks getting into their devices. Now, the next element of that is, okay, that's great. Now it's assuming kind of a JumpCloud managed device, but then we're also thinking about JumpCloud users. Well, what if the users are coming from different areas? So we spent a lot of time thinking about how do we federate those identities into JumpCloud from multiple different sources. And so introducing this quarter, we're actually federating from Okta. And so this is just one example. We're going to be spending some more time building out Azure as well as Google Workspaces, which is a really cool experience for Google Workspace folks, because then you can sort of think about logging into that device with those credentials, and then you're starting able to create those users into JumpCloud and have all those different automation flows, which we'll cover here in a second. But that's a great way to kind of get different elements and different users all in through that front door, no matter kind of where they're coming from. And so we're spending a lot of time building out that infrastructure, making sure that we have those federation scenarios available to us as we go from that. Now, we've kind of also talked about users, but they're kind of assuming they're cloud-based. They're coming from somewhere. But we still have some folks that are thinking about getting off of Active Directory, kind of how we can do that, and meeting a lot of our customers and partners kind of where they are. And so assuming that, hey, there's some existing users out there. And so we've had an integration Active Directory for a long time. I think it was one of the first big pieces that we delivered when I showed up kind of 3-4 years ago. But what we've done is made it a lot easier. And so we're able to now have control over kind of multiple domains. And so we're able to pull users from different areas as well as member servers. And so we have some folks that say, hey, I really want my DC on lockdown, but I need these users to kind of come from here, and this is an okay spot for me. And so that's kind of where we spent the time thinking about what are the best ways to get users into JumpCloud, not only from multiple different cloud sources, if they're just walking by picking up a device, but then also from kind of on-prem areas when we're thinking about kind of making sure we can get those users where they need to be. So that is a little bit, we talked a lot about kind of different user scenarios, kind of making sure you can get on the device, but what about the device itself? And so ever since we kind of talked a little bit about becoming a Windows MDM, one of the next big pieces that we're looking to deliver is kind of like, light enrollment there. So basically making sure that the device enrollment for Windows is even easier. And so here's a cliche USB stick, so you can use USB sticks still around, but it just managing that file getting onto the device. And so it's a combination of provisioning package as well as configuration designer to making sure that we're able to get those elements on the device the way that you need them. And what's really cool that is if you're not already or kind of want to work with some of our partners, either GrowWork or Hoffy, but they manage that whole device life cycle for you. So you can actually have the JumpCloud agent already provisioned. So it's a much nicer kind of out of the box experience for new users if you're shipping out those laptops wherever they might need to be. So great, I open up the laptop, I have all the things, but now I want to get my apps onto the device, right? I want to make sure that I'm not only set up from the SSO side, but other applications that we have. So one of the big movements that we've spent a lot of time on is what we're calling our custom app repository. And so here is another element where you're able to upload both MSI as well PKG files, but then we're also looking after kind of some storage and transfer capabilities. So that way you have your own custom apps, and then that is available through JumpCloud to be deployed to those devices. And so eventually we want to have a multitude of applications, not only from custom apps, but then that's where you'll see us kind of, this lays the foundation to set us up for third-party app management, patching, and kind of all the great things in the future. But having this infrastructure for those custom apps to live within that is great. We did have some questions through the webinar, just kind of if you're thinking about it, right, in terms of like, hey, how much storage is coming? Like, we're not going into competing with the S3 buckets anytime soon, but we're coming with a plenty of storage available across the organization. The goal is to have all the different applications that you need to efficiently work, right? And it's not like Bitcoining machines and other pieces that we're going to be popping in, but there are all the basic blocking and tackling apps that you need to operate in a modern organization. We'll make sure that you can have that accessible through JumpCloud. And so thinking about files, right? So we have those all set and great. Now I'm set up, but I run into some trouble. And we've been starting to think about how we can upgrade that support that we're able to provide for end users, both live. And so we spent some time with remote assist, kind of live settings, but then also silently. But now we're taking it one step further with this family of what we're calling background tools. And so within the background tools, when you're able to hop on the device, we've added two new elements there. One is file manager. So you're able to hop in, see what kind of files are going to transfer, making sure that they're set up for success if they didn't do it from the get-go, they're running in trouble. And then the other element, which is really sweet, is a live terminal in there. And so you can spend some time making sure there's color coding, there's tab complete, and it's a really slick, fast live terminal that you're able to hop into the device directly. And if you know that you kind of want to run some diagnostics or have some of those elements available to you right at the device screen, we're trying to make that even faster and better for both you and the users there. Thinking about devices, right? We want to make sure that there are files on there, but they're also secure. We want to make sure that the policies are laying down. One of the other elements that we wanted to pull up, making sure that you're able to see across your fleet even faster, is when that might not, happen as planned or it doesn't go as smoothly. So you can now want to see kind of across your device list all the different policies that have passed. And so we're going to provide even more visibility in terms of which ones have passed, which ones have failed, which ones are pending, and then also conflicts as well. So if you have different policies come in different places, you can start to see which ones have fallen down, which ones need to restart, and a little bit more better understanding. So instead of by device kind of going through that, you're able to see a holistic view, making sure that as you're pulling down, for example, one of JumpCloud's pre-templated security policies, part of our policy group, making sure that those are all implemented across the devices as you're getting up to speed. So we've talked a little bit about laptops, users, devices, kind of all these other elements, but then, what about the other things that are hiding in our pockets? And so we spent a lot of time thinking about how to advance Android all the way. So we spent a lot of time even earlier throughout this year, so kind of announcing EMM earlier, starting with some additional policies, but now we're adding even more advanced Android policies so that we even more custom configuration when you're thinking about getting it out of the box. And oh, by the way, for those that are supporting kind of those EMM enrollments, we also provide the zero-touch enrollment now too. So making sure that, again, that accessing the devices, getting it set up, getting it rolling, and making sure that you have the right policies and the security are all coming around on that. So that's really exciting for, I'd say, a good majority of the world that's running on Android, and the deployment there making it a lot easier. So that is, I'd say, my purview in terms of a lot of the different elements that we've spent a lot of time on when you're thinking about combining identity and devices, kind of a new front door experience, but really how to make sure that that access is even more seamless. But we've also spent a lot of time, we have a lot of engineers and product, fortunately, that are working across the platform. So some other enhancements that you'll see kind of around the other areas is dynamic groups. So we're adding in more attributes. I wanted to keep this the same so you kind of have a list of attributes of where we're going. And then we're also going to be doing operators as well, but that will be more likely Q1 work when we're thinking about some of those pieces, but we want to make sure we have those. And any feedback around this, we also have other pieces that aren't listed. So for example, one came up on the webinar, which we're looking at is kind of the device type, right? The operating, is it Intel or Silicon? What are some of those different nuances that we can start to have, as well as kind of what are some of the other elements that the device may contain?
Hey, Chase, before you move on to some of this, Tad was asking on the previous piece about support for WinGet. Do you back to what you were talking about previously? This came up before you hit platform.
Oh, gotcha. Good question. I didn't come up specifically. Let me finish this out. I will kill screens and then I will dig into the team while we keep talking and get you a quick answer.
Okay.
Yeah. And then finally, just password manager. So spending a lot more time thinking about pulling in better UI, UX, better sync, better kind of all these different elements to make it a more cohesive experience when you're thinking about managing users, access types, right? If it's outside of SSO, outside of the applications itself, all the other elements, which we still need to cover within our lives of kind of passwords, making sure that those, I'd say setup, shareability, visibility, all the ilities around kind of JumpCloud, that's where we're spending a lot of time making sure that there's enhancements and additional smaller features across the board. And so finally, this is not part of the roadmap, but I've been spending more time with GenAI. So here you have two neon bears waving goodbye from the forest, asking for other questions, other pieces. So that's the only non-fun part there. So that is the quick whirlwind tour of kind of everything that we talked about in terms of Q4. I didn't do too much in terms of leading kind of where we're going to be heading. So if any at all questions that I sparked there, in addition to WinGet, but then also kind of other elements that we might touch on.
Alrighty, so there were a few. Question on storage. Are you guys increasing the storage space for custom Mac policies? I have a few fonts that I push with commands, but would love to do this by policy. However, the font families are larger than the current size limit.
Oh,
That's
interesting.
from Jacob.
Font families, so some custom design love. So in general, I would say yes, but for Mac policies specifically, it's more of a coming type of question, because I think what we're getting to now is first within the custom app repository, making sure that we have that element where you can kind of have some of those pieces, but then we start thinking about storage in general, right? And that kind of opens up that carrot box for us. And then we can start to think about expanding the policies and have some of those. But the goal around that is to help get around some of the size limitations in general and add some more creativity in terms of where you're able to pull from those file device types, making sure you can pull it down. So.
Alrighty. And next, does Okta Skim need to be set up first for Okta Federation to work? From Mark.
That is a good question. I'm trying to think about the flow. So I don't want to give wrong answers, but I would say ideally yes, just so that way we have kind of that provisioning capability and running those protocols and the other elements. But I think the goal through our federation points is kind of being beyond that, right? And kind of get to a great zero touch way to have some of those elements, but there will be a way for JumpCloud to say, okay, which Okta account, right, and profiles we want to pull in, how are those going to be provisioned? And my guess is we're going to lean on elements like Skim or kind of some other protocols to help federate through that. So, but in terms of order of operations, let me check in terms of how the documentation, because I think we're scoping out some of the knowledge base articles, other pieces, and we'll make sure that during that setup, we don't, put the right foot first in that type of piece.
Okay. And when are the attributes coming?
So the list that I showed should be all set for Q4. And so if there's any other slippage or other pieces, we should have that. And so since we're actually in the middle of the quarter, we're having a lot of the pieces that are in flight right now. And for additional attributes, that, as you can, it's a little bit easier complexity to say, hey, what are the other data sources that we want to pull in from JumpCloud? The operators get a little bit more interesting because the logic flow changes for us. And so it's just a little bit more on that type of side. And that's why I say, kind of if you have more suggestions in terms of other attributes, that's easier for our teams to kind of add in those other elements. And then that's too kind of where it makes it a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more like each new attribute adds more optionality, and then also counter flows, if you want to think about it that way too.
Yeah. Jacob had a comment about Winget. It's tricky because it isn't really designed to be ran as a system. Hoping the PowerShell module in beta makes that better.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
And then another question. James wants to know, did we mention JumpCloud Go and conditional access? Did I miss that?
Oh, good question. No, I didn't mention that. It is one piece that we touched on in the larger roadmap webinar. But in terms of JumpCloud Go, and so you don't use it, it's amazing. I like it. But that is the next kind of step up element that we're having for JumpCloud Go is when you think about the conditional access policies and step up MFA, making sure that JumpCloud can be a piece of that. So if you so choose, make sure say, hey, if you're going into, so the example I'll typically use is either Atlassian or AWS or kind of other specific applications or other scenarios where you want a specific step up in terms of MFA confirmation. JumpCloud Go will now be an option for that as well.
Awesome. And let's see. JumpCloud Go and conditional access with mobile devices more specifically.
Gotcha. That's the yes and. That's where I get into like, hey, it's coming. What I mean by that, though, is we did talk a little bit around in terms of kind of what's next for mobile outside of Android. So I want to just kind of spend time on, hey, here's what you're getting this quarter. Thinking about 2004, that is where we're going to be having some additional, what we're going to call device trust for mobile, right? So you can kind of think about it as JumpCloud Go for your mobile devices, but making sure that we can have, I'd say, the additional fun that we need, right, in terms of managing mobile devices, whether that, making sure it's certs, but leveraging those biometrics and making sure that we're hopping in those right scenarios. So that is absolutely set up for 2024. So we can have that type of experience across all of your devices. We're starting with the main MFA fatigue that I think most people kind of run into for the most part, which is this 2D screen life that we're living right now. But so as soon as we've solved for that, that absolutely sets us up to cover mobile within 2024.
Awesome. And Keith has an interesting suggestion. Could the intro to the show step-by-step play when step-up MFA is required? I
bet we can
require some copyright, maneuvering.
Yeah, I guess we can't do it, said copyright, but I bet we can enable some really interesting scripts to enable that. Something's got to happen, right? And so it's like, hey, it's part of the challenge.
Yeah.
Both musically as well as physically and biometrics.
Yeah. Right. Any other questions, y'all? Drop them in the chat before we say thank you to Chase for that. And if you haven't watched the full thing, Urvashi put the link in the chat earlier. And if you had signed up for the webinar, you should have already gotten an email with the link to the recap, but it's on the website as well. Anytime you can't make a webinar, still go ahead and sign up because you will get a link back to the recap, back to the replay. Here
and it lives on the website forever, so you can find it.
Or for a while anyway. I don't know about forever, but for a long time.
Yeah, I'd say just listen 2x speed, kind of, and it has a lot more details in terms of the how, why, what are, and then also you get to hear from Greg and Tom, right, who are kind of leading our product team and kind of their intro and version. This is I get to sit back and sit across from the product team. So this is my look in. And the last question too, I see just popped in for the admin console for JumpCloud Go and push. And yes, that has been a long standing ask. And I don't know where it lands right within the priority, but that it comes up a lot. And so we're going to be looking at that, making sure that we get it for the admin console, and then some other things around, say, admin privileges in general and kind of what we can do there. For those that are within the multi-tenant portal, kind of MSPs or kind of other pieces. One other piece around that too is kind of different new roles that we'll be introducing in Q1 as well. And so all that is set for those types of areas. And I will say we'll have a better sense internally within kind of the next couple of weeks, kind of how our Q1 and as well as 2024 starts to shape up. And so we'll have a lot better answers in terms of timing and kind of specific feature flows and other elements that will be coming here in a couple months, and we can be a little bit more specific too.
Okay, and another one just popped up about any updates for password manager in the works.
Yes, so there's a few that I mentioned here. I'd say the biggest element, if you want to think about in terms of usability, functionality, and kind of in visibility, kind of all those different pieces. But from the usability perspective, making sure that the UI UX is a little bit more consistent with JumpCloud Admin Portal, kind of, and those experiences and notifications are cleaner, right? But then not only they're cleaner, but they're also faster. We want to increase the sync speed between the devices and Cloud Relay and kind of other elements that are all within that. So that's more of like day of life stuff. And then I'd say the other bulk where the team has spent a lot of time is, okay, what are the additional visibility points that we can start to capture from device management, pull that into the admin console, making sure that you can see that a little bit more logging. And so it feels closer, right? And so even though we're taking a decentralized approach to password management, we want a centralized view of kind of what's happening, all those different types of elements, so that way it saves time, it saves triage. So that's a lot of the time where we're spending this quarter. And I'd say in general, password manager, like JumpCloud Protect, like I don't know, JumpCloud Go, like these are kind of now elements that sit within the platform that have ongoing and kind of almost mini roadmaps within themselves in terms of enhancements just for those areas. But then also we have what I'd call bridge features, right? Where how can we combine identity devices? Again, kind of using that as an example. What are those bridges that make it for a really strong experience, make it for even faster out of box flows, make it for even faster type of enrollment? So that's really where we're going to be positioning ourselves for next year for sure.
All right, let's see. Let me put this as a question so that we can properly answer it. Any updates coming for remote support app? 2 requests. Walk through a Mac user to enable screen sharing, allow admin to reset or start new session. A lot of issues around asking the end user to take action.
Okay. Yeah. So the first one definitely will kind of pull as a feature request, and then the admin reset function, I think that's another element that we can get into. As you can tell, we've spent a lot of time in terms of just remote assist and background tools and kind of what are the big rocks that we can add into feature functionality. But we'll pull both of those into the feature requests again sorted. So making sure, again, kind of now that we have those rocks in place, what are the other elements to make sure we can run through there?
Okay, and another one from Josh here. Would love to be able to manage the shared groups access from the admin console versus having to be a folder manager on all groups to be able to admin them.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, another feature request there, Josh. And you too, Keith, but I'm sure you already know that. And here's another one around, let's see, passkeys. So let me put that one up there.
Yes.
Passkeys going to be more a focus next year in macOS and iOS MDM?
It is, and I think this is one of those elements where we want to see how it continues to evolve. I mean, so the good news is we have a lot of strong players, a la Apple, as well as like Yubico and some others that are thinking about passkeys, right, in terms of that type of auth flow. We're obviously taking, our approach in terms of how we think about passwordless experiences with JumpCloud Go and leveraging biometrics and kind of other elements. But what are pieces out in the community like passkeys with other elements where you're kind of having some of those. And so I know that we are going to be looking at that for password manager as well as kind of other OS, right? And thinking about kind of Mac OS, iOS, but what are that type of experiences that we can have for devices? So I know the teams are looking at that right now in terms of how we can, what's the best wording here? Kind of come into the marriage cleanly, right? Is probably making sure making sure that we are ready and enabling those. But yeah, the team is absolutely looking at that. All the things. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, submit all the things, read your requests.
Yeah.
And you can also do those from your admin console directly.
Yep.
And let's see, I think that is it. All right. I think that's all. And I did go back, and there is one additional product release announcement that I had inadvertently skipped. And actually, they're just posting about it today, and we haven't even gotten a post in the community yet. I'm sure that will be coming from probably Tom. What's that?
Is that hot off the presses?
Yes. JumpCloud, we have announced support for device and identity management with AWS Verified Access.
Mm-hmm.
This is exciting. So if you don't know, AWS Verified Access provides secure access to corporate applications without the need for VPN. And we are now I think the first to do this, to be integrated with this. Verified Access continually evaluates each access request in real time using contextual security signals such as identity, device security status, and location. And the key benefits of these together: manage private application access, added protection for multi-OS organizations, verification for cross-platform organizations, increased visibility and management. There's a whole lot in this blog post that goes into a lot of detail about this. So I don't want to read verbatim the entire thing, but we're super excited about adding this verified access to improve your security posture. If you're using AWS Verified Access, definitely check this out. We will put a link, and I think there will be some more on the community soon. If not, it is definitely in our corporate blog. Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. So
yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that we're able to get that out. I know we were I didn't know if they were going to wait till reInvent to kind of make that. So sneak peek, I love it when fresh stuff.
Yeah, literally just posted today. So very exciting stuff. And with that, we've actually got time for the IT news for once. We haven't had a lot of time for it recently. So Urvashi, looks like we've got some CISA announcements.
Womp womp.
Yeah, so what's going on with CISA?
Brace yourselves. So the first one is in response to recent activity by Scattered Spider. Have to say that's kind of a cool name. Threat actors against the commercial facilities sectors and subsectors. Scattered Spider, great band name, is a cybercriminal group that targets large companies and their contracted information technology help desks. Looking at y'all, help desks. Scattered Spider threat actors per trusted third parties have typically engaged in data theft for extortion and have also known to utilize Black Cat, ALPHB. I'm just going to pronounce that alpha because I feel like it's easier. Ransomware along their usual TTPs. That's exciting. The link will be in the show notes, and that has all the mitigation information that you might need. The next one is about, how do you think that's pronounced, Becky?
I'm going to say Reseda.
Okay,
Close
Reseda ransomware. So this is about known Reseda ransomware IOCs and TTPs identified through investigations as recently as September of this year. Reseda, an emerging ransomware variant, has predominantly been deployed against the education, healthcare, manufacturing, IT, and government sectors, which is pretty much all of them. Since May 23, the information in the link will give you all of the mitigation steps.
All right.
So go check those things, update your passwords, check all the reports. Moving on to slightly better news. So Windows app.
Windows app? There's an app called Windows app.
Quoting Ars Technica, it feels strange to say it, but it's true. There is an app called simply Windows. It's available for early testing on Mac, iOS, and iPad, the web, Windows, and eventually, why is it available on Windows? Eventually Android, and it's made by Microsoft. Windows app is named by Microsoft in a rare bit of minimalism, is essentially a convenient remote desktop connection to a Windows OS on a physical system, an Azure virtual desktop, a dev box, or elsewhere. So there's some other things you can do with it, like use your local device's webcam, speakers, printer connections with your remote Windows system. You can, hang on, this is a very long sentence. Basically, what they're saying is that this looks like it's a first step in Microsoft's slow march towards making a virtual OS, Windows OS, something that seems convenient for everybody, whether it's a business or personal account. I find it really funny that the Windows app is available for Windows.
That's interesting.
I'll start somewhere.
To cover all the bases. This one I thought was really clever, but it's not good. Hackers use a new SEC rule to snitch on the company that they infiltrated. So, databreaches.net initially reported on the incident, which was conducted by Alpha.
There's Alpha again.
Yeah, they're doing everything. A group known for breaching entities as diverse as MGM Resorts and Reddit. The hackers reportedly infiltrated the servers of the fintech company Meridian Link on November 7th, stealing the company's data without encrypting it. However, when the business neglected to negotiate directly, the hackers increased the pressure by filing a report with the SEC.
That's interesting.
That's one way to do it.
And the extra time to get some leverage out of this.
Oh my God, things people will do. And this one is just a fun one, but Amazon announces online car sales for the first time, starting with Hyundai. So starting next year, you'll be able to buy a car on Amazon. And you can go pick it up at a dealership near you or have it delivered to you.
US locker. Here it is. Yeah.
I'm just imagining those tiny little drones.
Or maybe that's when the garage delivery will be perfect. You could like have them deliver it into your garage and just drop it off.
Oh my God.
I don't know. Would you trust an Amazon driver to drop off a car for you? I've seen how they drive in our neighborhood.
Drive pretty quick.
Somebody is definitely going to post something that looks like a car and it's like $5 and has all the specs and you get it and it's like a model and they don't include the dimensions.
I was just going to say that they're going to do one of those perspective things where it looks like it's a car and when you get it, it's a Hot Wheels.
Yeah. So let's wait for those scams to begin.
It's supposed to be through a dealership, though. I think it says through a Hyundai dealership. So I guess if you're buying it through a Hyundai dealer or, through someplace like CarMax or something, you would hope that it would be legit. But
how do you not want to like test drive the car and like sit in it and like feel the fabric of the seats and like I can't even buy towels online. I have to go and like touch it before I buy it. People are buying cars.
Well, I suppose if you test drive the make and model and then they don't have it in stock locally and then you buy it from a dealer that has it in stock, but that would only work if you're buying new. Like used, you need to check it out and make sure that it doesn't drive wonky or, like pull to the side or have an oil leak or something like that.
One bet that Amazon is going to slowly become another Craigslist, where it's just like anyone can sell anything and it's going to become dangerous.
All right, I want to address what's going on in the comments here because Kelly was asking about seeing ideas and feature requests that she had submitted, and then people are telling her you can look at yours in the case portal. And now she's saying, I want to be able to see other people's cases and vote them up instead of sending in duplicates of other ideas. Yes. And Nathan's agreeing with her. And Chase is saying we do it on the back end. But Kelly, I am working on that. I'm talking to the product team to to try and make that happen somehow in the community or some other way to get them done publicly where instead of doing duplicates, you can vote, you can make comments. So I'm glad to see y'all saying that because I can take this back to our product team and say, see, people really do want to do this. And we understand that. I think it's really important to see that that you all are wanting to see that and be instead of submitting the same thing over and over again, be able to see others and vote on it. And then what I'm hoping to do is for you to be able to see them and then add your comments and say, oh, I like that, but I want to, this is my use case. And then someone else can say, oh, yeah. And on top of that, I have this additional use case. So, like, like we do sometimes when we're in like a beta or an early access where you're helping refine each other's comments and things like that. We don't trust what happens in the back end, Chase. That's what Nathan's saying.
Right. We do triage, but we do see everything that comes through, right? So I'm on those streams. But to Becky's point, like there's, I think a lot of stuff that I'd say larger, bigger items, right? That we're working on that we feel strategic and other, but like good example of that is, JumpCloud Go on admin portal and like protect, and like as I mentioned, like longer standing asks where I feel it, I see it, but it's hard to communicate that. And I've always been a big advocate for public roadmaps because, to be honest, our engineering and RD section of the business very strong, right? It's one of the elements that I love about this organization, and so we're able to have a huge velocity. Like I always have something to talk about every quarter, right? Multiple different features, and so I'd love to have even more visibility on kind of how we're delivering that and kind of your guidance in there, and kind of act as our the biggest advisory board you can imagine, right? In terms of how we want to see the products. So
yeah,
I'm a huge advocate for it, and so I'm happy Becky's on the case. Yeah. So now I have complete faith.
Yeah, because you all may not see all the like that there are 25 or 50 of the same idea coming in. So we're going to go, oh, well, that's if that means people are saying something, then we want to look at that. But that puts pressure on our PMs. So if we could aggregate that somehow and let y'all just vote and then add your comments in one place rather than duplicating things. I mean, that's what I'm advocating for. So seeing comments like this helps because I can go back to our our product team and say, hey, look, people really are asking for this. The complication is we've got to figure out a way to put this in the workflow for our PMs in a way that makes sense for them. So that's what we're, just to give you a little bit of transparency of it's a little complicated, but I really want to see this happen. So I'm advocating for that. We'll do the best we can. So I'm going to screenshot your comments and send them to the powers that be and say, hey, let's talk a little bit more about this. So Kelly, I'm glad you said something about that. Yeah, it is. This is on the community piece to try and make that happen, to do more of that up front where y'all can see it and add your feedback. So yeah.
I promise this is related, but have you all seen the Roman Empire meme on TikTok? Apparently, a lot of men think about the Roman Empire like every day. Is this true, Chase?
I mean, no, I wouldn't say I'd pick up that time period specifically, right? And so like I'm trying to think of like what would get into that element. So I'd say there's a lot of this motion of kind of bringing stoicism back, right? Especially in the startup VC investors, right? And they're kind of like bringing back into kind of, hey, life's hard and other elements. And so like I can see some of those influences there, but in terms of like, Roman Empire, like this is a hard time to live. Like there's a lot of other pieces, and maybe it's just the Netflix series I'm watching, but like that never seems to be a time zone that I sit in, shall I say.
So the meme is that men think about the Roman Empire often, and then people are coming up with like, this is my Roman Empire. And like a lot of women are saying like, my Roman Empire is always trying to be on a diet or whatever. And let me just tell you that all of this build up was to say that this feature request voting system is Becky and my Roman Empire, because we talk about it in every meeting. So just know that we're always thinking about it.
Yes. We have the aqueduct of features flowing to the city.
There you go.
Yes.
That is how you justify it. And happy
Oh my
belated
God.
birthday, Kelly. Kelly's birthday was yesterday. So
Happy belated birthday.
happy belated birthday. She's
Just
29.
share your address and your bank details, and we will send you a present. And also send us your SSID. No, not SSID, Social
She's-
Security. That's SSN. My bad.
Yeah.
My brain
Yeah.
is broken.
Happy 29th birthday, Kelly. Congratulations. I hope you
Oh my God,
enjoyed
you're in
it.
your 20s.
Yay.
It's so nice.
Yeah.
I
Well,
remember my 20s.
if we don't talk again in Slack or in the community, I hope you have a wonderful, happy weekend and happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate. And even if you don't, I hope you have a chance to think about the things that are good in your life. And sorry, Stuart, that you have to work, but I hope you find something to be grateful about anyway. And anyone else who has to work. But we are very grateful for you all. You make days like this, where we do the IT hour, very fun and worthwhile. This is the highlight of our week. So thank you all for joining us every week and giving us something fun to do. So take care, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Okay. All right. Bye, everyone.